order the City of West Palm Beach Historic Preservation Board meeting for October 27th, 2020. Can we please begin with a roll call?
Amanda Schuyler.
Here.
Kristen Kellogg.
Here.
Dan Pinkney.
Here.
Gabriel Jaroslawski.
Here.
Ken Breslauer.
Here.
Reginald Stambaugh.
Here.
Nick Casale.
Here.
Keith Williams.
Thank you. We now move on to approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do we have any changes to the agenda as presented, Ms. Mittner?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, any changes from a member of the board? Any changes desired? Okay, seeing none, can we please have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda for tonight's Historic Preservation Board meeting.
Second.
A second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to approval of the minutes from the September 22nd meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes as presented? Okay, seeing none, can we have a motion to approve, please?
I move the board to approve the meeting minutes from September meeting.
Give a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We now move on to the report of the Historic Preservation Planner.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Frederique Mittner, City Historic Preservation Planner. Since the board last met, staff has reviewed 94 level 1 applications, completed 2 level 2 reviews, and 30 zoning reviews. We also want to give you an update that the Gardenia meeting, the Gardenia and the Edgewater building were moved into the Northwest Historic District. We're still waiting on some positioning there, but that was exciting. It was a building that was not historically designated or protected, and so it's good that it's on its path to its forever home there. We also are having public outreach meetings on the Sunset Lounge and the revitalization of that structure. And there's actually a meeting tomorrow night. So if anyone's interested, I'm happy to send them a Zoom invite, or you can attend in person here in Flagler Gallery. And then just a reminder that next month and also in the month of December, we change our schedule a little bit to accommodate some of the other conflicts. In those months, we have the next Historic Preservation Board meeting will be Wednesday, November 18th. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We now move on to remarks by the chairperson. I have a script that I need to read for this evening. Pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69 issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th of 2020 and Mayor Keith A. James's Executive Order number 2020-05 issued on April 2nd of 2020, the City of West Palm Beach's boards and committees are conducting meetings through media technology and have released the requirements to have a quorum of its members physically present at City Hall. On April 14th of 2020, Mayor Keith A. James issued Executive Order number 2020-09, which specifically provides the rules of procedure for conducting city meetings, including requirements for quasi-judicial hearings. The members of this board appearing remotely were read during roll call. To ensure the ability for the public to continue to participate in this public hearing, it is being streamed live and available for viewing in City Commission chambers located at City Center, 401 Clematis Street, provided that social distancing is required. Additionally, for those wishing to access the meeting remotely, they are able to do so directly through the applicable Zoom webinar link, as well as the city's usual media channels, including WPB-TV 18, the city's website, and the city's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter feeds. Anyone from the public who would like to provide comment on an agenda item is able to do so through the following methods: by being present in the City Center Flagler Gallery, by dialing 561-320-3872 and leaving a voicemail not to exceed 3 minutes, by sending an email or video recording to hpbpubliccomment@wpb.org, or completing the online public comment form at www.wpb.org/public comments. Those accessing the meeting directly through Zoom may also use the chat or raise hand features. Anyone using only their phone may raise their hand by pressing *9. Regardless of method, please be sure to indicate the agenda number or case number for which you are providing comment. Everyone providing testimony this evening must have video capability and will need to be sworn in. We will do so at the start of each case on the agenda. If you are about to provide testimony and were not sworn in, please be sure to indicate such and be sworn in accordingly. After the applicant presents their case, staff will provide a presentation, and then public will have an opportunity to speak or have their comments read into the record from previously recorded correspondence. The board will then go into executive session. Prior to rendering a decision, the board will confirm no additional public comments have been received by staff. To lead into this, we need to let the public know if we've had any conversations about tonight's cases outside of this meeting. Can we please lead in with a declaration of ex parte communications?
Gabe Jaroslavsky, no ex parte communication.
Ken Breslauer, in regards to case 20-63, I have a contract with the applicant for design work at my residence, and the project is somewhat similar to this case. Therefore, I will recuse myself from case 2063. Otherwise, no ex parte communication.
Dan Pickney, no ex parte communications.
Nick Casale, no ex parte communications.
Reginald Stambaugh, no ex parte communications.
Keith Williams, no ex parte communication.
Kristen Kellogg, no ex parte communication.
Amanda Skyer, I did speak with Ms. Mittner about the cases on tonight's agenda, but I can base my decisions on the evidence presented. We now move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Do we have anyone who wishes to make a comment on something or a topic not on tonight's agenda?
I have not received any correspondence.
Okay.
And there's no one in the chambers.
Okay, thank you. Do we have our first set of speakers, our applicants for the first case? Should we go ahead and, oh wait, I guess we could swear them in, but I guess we can take a motion to approve for the consent case first. So if I could have a motion to approve for the one consent case, please.
I move the board to approve consent case number 20-61, located on 917 39th Court.
Do we have a second?
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion carries. If you are the owner of 917 39th Court, your case has been approved. Moving on to case number 20-60 223 Sunset Road. Can we please swear in our speakers?
Tammy, you're still on mute, so you'll have to unmute, and then we'll go ahead and swear you in.
Okay, and let me do this full screen. Or do you need to see me more first?
We can see you.
Okay.
Raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Okay. I'm nervous.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
I do.
I do.
Ms. Gilly, would you like to present?
Yes, please. I'm trying to get you all to be able to do full screen here so you don't have to see all my other junk. Okay. So yes, my husband and I recently purchased the property on 223 Sunset Road, and we appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to y'all about this. We've had a long list of things we're trying to do to the home. We bought, it's beautiful, but there were things just needed to be taken care of. And are y'all hearing a ding every time that pops up? I hope you're not. I'm sorry. My son
No, we're
from
not.
college keeps texting me, so sorry. But anyway, so there's been several things we wanted to do to the property to improve, well, not even improve, but just for maintenance purposes and things like that. So the first thing, we appreciate that windows were approved for it and those are on order. The next thing is we need to put a new roof on the home, and ideally we would like to use an S-clay tile. The home right now has a true barrel on it, but the S-clay tile is nothing unusual nor new to contributing properties in the neighborhood. So we feel like it wouldn't stand out or even bring down the integrity of the property to use an S-clay. And the reason for this being is we are on a budget and we are trying to accommodate as many items from the wish list as possible. And one of those items being enlarging some of the windows to allow for more natural light in the house, but then also we also need to do the roof. And so we're trying to squeeze in as much as we can here. So I'm going to do, should be a little easier. Okay, then the following are all contributing properties that are within 2 blocks of our home. And what you see here, I have examples on these 2 blocks, both of concrete S-tiles and clay S-tiles. This one here are concrete S-tiles, and it is a historic contributing home. The same with the following. This is also a contributing home with cement S-tiles.
Ms. Gilly, are we supposed to have any visuals? Apologies for my interruption.
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing my screen.
There should be a button. It's green. It says share screen.
Okay, I thought I apologize. I thought I had hit that, so I do apologize. Let me go back to you all then. And there we go. I apologize for that. Okay, I thought I had. Okay, so let me go back to this then. And again, thank you for your patience. Okay, I apologize. Let me back up then. This is the first time I showed, and this has the concrete.
We're still not, I'm sorry, we're
still not doing it? Okay, well, I clicked the button. Shoot, I really need this. Okay.
Now you have it.
Okay, you have it. Thank you. I'm just gonna not mess with all this, even though you're seeing a little bit of the other junk, so I apologize. Thank you. Okay, so this is one of the homes, contributing historical homes in the neighborhood, that has the concrete S-tile, and as well as this next one right here does as well. And these are all, like I said, historically contributing with these roofs. This is the last one that I have of that example. All of these homes are within 2 blocks of our house. We didn't go far. It's not like we went searching and combing, 10 streets to try to come up with this. These were just things that you see on every block. The next house is a clay S-tile. And what we have found that while the concrete S-tile is great for some homes, we feel like for our house, it is right that we need to spend the extra money to do a clay S-tile on the home, because I do think you can tell a difference. And as Ms. Midner said, we are a contributing property, and we are in a corner between Airvale and Sunset. So we completely are on the same page that it needs to be clay. However, I think that's where what I'm running into is we'd like to do the S. It is a savings of about $12,000 between the S tile, I'm sorry, between the concrete S and the S clay, and then another $12,000 savings between the clay S and a true barrel. And so this house here is also a contributing property, and this is a beautiful clay S roof. And honestly, some of the ones that are done well, which we would make sure ours was, you really have to look to see and study it to see if you can tell a difference. Here's another clay S, and another one here. And again, I'm open to whatever fill through here you all prefer. You know, some of the roofer says they can do nothing, or they can do cement color, or they could do the same terracotta color. And I'm open to suggestions on that. We are new to this. Here's one more that is a beautiful roof, and it's an S clay. And lastly is this one here. What's interesting about this, and this is a home on Medina right around the corner from us, is again, you have to really look to see what it is. And after I took the picture and we zoomed in, you'll see it's actually a combination of the two. So they have a true barrel here, and then this is an S clay. And from a distance on the street, whoops, it went back wrong, sorry. From a distance, you can't tell which is which. So I think we're not trying to compromise the integrity of the home. We moved in just a few weeks ago and we absolutely love it. So we would do this with the utmost care for its character and the integrity of the neighborhood, the whole, the street, everything. But it would allow us to do some other things on our wish list, like enlarging windows, if we could save that $12,000 to $13,000 for our budget for other things. And there's kind of a breakdown of that. And once again, yeah, the 50,000 sounds the best, don't get me wrong. But I do understand keeping the home looking up to par with how it was intended to look. So anyway, I think that's all. So yes, so thank you very much for considering, and I appreciate being able to talk with you tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you have any questions of Ms. Gilly? Okay, we'll move on to the staff presentation. Ms. Mittner.
Thank you. Okay, I'm done.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna just go ahead and get my mine set up.
I don't know when they vote though.
So I'm not sure if this evening you'll also see do you see it split, or is it just making sure?
Yes, we can see your next slide.
Okay, let me head back there.
I look like such an idiot because I did share screen, and then when I went to do it, it took it away again. So I kept them to go back.
Ms. Gilly, we can still hear you. Do you want to mute your microphone?
I just muted her.
Thank you.
I apologize. I'm also having technical difficulties in getting it as a full screen. So I'll go ahead and get started because I do respect your time here, unless Aaron can jump in. And we'll just keep going through it, and I hope the board will bear with me. As Ms. Gilly already mentioned, their property is located at the northeast corner of Sunset Road and Aravale in the El Cid Historic District. It is a beautiful contributing property built in 1925. It is highly visible because it is on the corner, and there is a lot of roof lines and roofing elements that are happening. And this is the southern elevation, or the front of the house. And the request this evening is to replace 4 pairs of French doors that are either front or courtyard facing with the same size of French doors in a matching light pattern. as well as replacing 2 pairs of French doors at the rear of the house with a similar design, but increasing them in height by 18 inches. They are proposing a beautiful Marvin product, which is similar to what was previously approved by the board for window replacement in the front, and staff has also allowed them to continue that product on a few additional window openings. But this does include a change in size and additional front-facing original wood doors. And the second request is, as you heard, focused on is the replacement of the existing clay barrel tile roof with a clay Burrell S tile. And it certainly is a beautiful product that they've proposed, but we have some concerns. So again, no concerns on the door proposal, matching the light pattern. The styles and frames are very similar to the existing, even though they are beautiful pine doors. There's no additional detailing on them, and we understand the water intrusion and some of the damage that has been occurring. And again, the opening size change is just at the rear and would not be visible. It's really the roof proposal that staff has a concern about. This is an aerial view that was submitted by the applicant and of the tile. We are happy that they've selected an appropriate color and the clay material instead of the concrete. But the concern is that kind of that second piece. It's not a full S, as was already explained. It does not have that high profile here, but then it does scoop back a bit here instead of a true barrel, which is 2 individual pieces that lock in together that, of course, I know the board's familiar with. And so the concern is that because it's so highly visible, and you can really clearly see here that it's a true barrel, that we do not believe that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're still on slide 1. So I don't know what your image you're referring to.
I do apologize. Yes, made it to slide 7 here.
Yeah, we're still seeing slide 1, 2, and 3 for some reason. Okay.
Let's see. If
there we go. There's slide 7. Okay.
Okay. It'll still be that split screen. So let me. Do my normal thing. Okay. Problem solved. So I apologize. I will just run through quickly again the location aerial of where the property is. Again, corner lot visible, front of the home. The 2 requests, the doors, again, that staff has no concerns about given the water intrusion, and the roofing material that's being proposed. And then this is, again, a close-up of the corner where you can truly see the distinction of the individual pieces. And Ms. Gilly presented several properties. I would have to research of how those have an S tile. I agree they're very nice roofs. I don't know if it was previously board approved, if it was a hiccup in the permitting process, and how they ended up with an S tile versus a true barrel. But we do believe there's a lot of work and a lot of investment in this property, and that I recognize $12,000 is a significant amount of money, but we do not believe, even with this nice clay S, it does not meet the true barrel tile in the relationship to each other, and again, the highly visible nature. And so we don't believe that it meets Secretary of Interior standard number 6 because it does not match the old in design. And so therefore we are recommending that the board approve a true barrel tile. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mittner. Questions of staff?
I have a question. So the images that the applicant showed, do we know if those are historical homes?
Mr. Williams, I'm sorry, it's a little bit hard to hear you. I believe you're asking if there are historic homes. Yes, it looked to me like they were indeed contributing structures in primarily El Cid, but I can't speak to every specific situation. I'm not sure how they received that approval, even though I concur that those are, obviously she zoomed in and did her research and I think documented that they were not a true barrel. They are the elevated S, the Burrell product probably as well as what's being proposed, but I don't know how that happened.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Mittner, going back to the windows, the material that we received doesn't include the glass. So was that the glass included in the application? I mean, I was sure that is the glass that we always want for this type of property.
You mean that the glazing is clear and no tint, and that is something that we can certainly add as a condition, but I know that that's what the applicant has done with the additional window replacements, and she's honored that. I would imagine she would be carrying it through with these doors.
Well,
But
I couldn't find information in the package, so that's the reason that I'm asking the question.
yeah, I believe in my conversations with Ms. Gilly, yes, it'll be clear. And I see her shaking her head, nodding her head, I should say.
Ms. Midner?
Yes.
Yeah, in the examples that the applicant showed, if, as the word that you used, if there was in fact a hiccup and these particular roofs with the S-shaped tiles were not approved by the board, wouldn't it be beneficial just for the sake of the applicant that, if we turn down her application, that she doesn't feel like she'd been singled out, that, that the other work had been done, illegally, so to speak?
I'm certainly happy to do the research on them. But I would, her case would be, or at least this portion of her case would be continued till next month until I can provide you with that feedback.
Yeah, okay.
I guess that's where I was going. Have we already set a precedence? Meaning, have we already approved this type of application on a historical home? It's probably important to know that.
Well, this, just a few months ago, Ms. Mittner could correct me if I'm wrong, we did have a very long discussion about S-tile versus barrel tile. And we agreed that the applicant should use the barrel tile, if I remember correctly.
Well, I am familiar with a new construction case that the board heard. It was in Flamingo Park, and the applicant was approved for a barrel, and she wanted to appeal her decision and receive approval for an S-tile. It was actually Aaron Borngraber's case, and she presented similar evidence of other places that were approved for an S-tile, and the board granted that, but that was new construction. So I would say that is definitely a distinction versus this case, where again, we're applying standard number 6 for replacement material.
Okay.
I believe I'm the most senior member on this board, and it has been my experience that we will allow for S-clay tile on new construction, but not on contributing properties. And Ms. Mittner, I actually wanted to ask you if you could opine philosophically about why it's important to use original materials and construction techniques when you are trying to preserve the architectural integrity of a contributing building.
Well, I think particularly on this one, because of its highly visible nature and its multiple roof lines, I think over time, if you make these modifications, you've eroded the integrity. Maybe one change in and of itself doesn't do it, but the cumulative effect. And so, the true barrel tiles have such a beautiful history of how they were originated, formed over people's thighs, and they had this, each one was maybe a little different. It just has this warmth and character. And so it really kind of speaks to the authenticity by having the appropriate shape and design of what was there before, understanding that roofs do have a limited lifespan, but it is a product that is available. I can appreciate the cost difference, but I think in this situation, I think it is so visible and so important. Perhaps I could offer to the board something that actually Ms. Gilly showed over on Medina Way, is because there are so many complex roof systems. I don't know if there's a way to devise areas that the S would be acceptable and the visible areas, the true barrel, if the board is leaning towards an S, but again, definitely these pent roofs and this corner hip, I just feel it's such a visible roof. And
Oh.
the authenticity, I think, is very important on this home.
I was going to suggest the same thing if there was any way to achieve, you know, the proper profile on the eaves and just continue with the regular tile. But I don't know if that's possible.
I haven't spoken to the roofer, and that was not something I had suggested previously. I don't know if that's an option.
Right.
Okay, do we have any further questions of staff? Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on this case?
Madam Chair, I see no public comment.
Okay, so we'll go into executive session. So I guess this is more of a philosophical question, when it comes to preserving these buildings. It's not the same challenge as we experience with windows and, wanting to have an impact product. The type of tile doesn't affect its ability to protect the home or its efficiency. It's an appearance thing, and it's about authenticity. So I guess that's really what we're wrestling with here. I know this property personally. It's a beautiful, beautiful home. And one of the things that really sets it apart is that so much of the original architectural detailing remains. I mean, just seeing that fireplace behind Miss Gilly as she was speaking, it's gorgeous. So I don't know. I would be interested to hear what everybody else thinks.
In listening to the staff's recommendation, I agree with the staff, and I understand that the applicant's looking to save money. It's always good to be able to save money. I just think that money could perhaps be saved in different ways. I mean, I'm not here to do a cost analysis on the improvements, but one of the material elements of a historic property is the roof and the materials used. And throughout the time that I've been involved in preservation, particularly with El Cid, El Cid is one of the nicest districts, historic districts in West Palm Beach. So buying into that district, most, if not all, educated buyers know what they're getting themselves into, so to speak, which includes meeting the preservation board requirements. And if there was some sort of grave financial burden, perhaps there could be some type of consideration outside of compliance with the standards, as long as we're meeting the code obligations. But here I know $10,000-12,000 is a lot of money. The result of having a true clay barrel tile roof, it will raise the values if that standard is applied as more applicants come up, and it's like raising the tide or raising the water line, keeping the standard up. And when I lived at 281 Cordova back in the early 90s, we had so many different types of roofs that were so non-compliant. I think there was a Dutch colonial that had a barrel tile roof. Frederic, do you remember that one? It just completely inconsistent. But I can't support the S-tile roof. I believe that we just need to hold the line when it comes to roofs. I'm more sympathetic when it comes to windows, but the beauty of a barrel tile roof, a true barrel tile clay roof, the value may actually be seen as a loss up front, or actually, I mean, the loss of money may be seen up front, but it'll last for many years in appearance, and that value will be far exceed the $10,000 or $12,000. So I think someone once told me price is forgotten when value remains, or something like that. Price is long forgotten when quality remains. And so I'm not basing my decision on that quote. Standards are what I'm basing my decision on, and I stand by the staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Yes, since Madam Chair clarified the fact that we allowed the S tiles on new construction, I'll have to go along with the staff's assessment as well.
So I remember that case, and I remember that I explained to the applicant the advantages of the true barrel tile versus an S tile, right? Because some, from an architectural point of view, there are certain things that regular people don't appreciate or don't realize. And, what I remember what I said at that time was, and it's even more important for this house, is that when you look at your house and you see something that is making the house so important and so pretty, and you don't realize sometimes that is actually the roof, you may see that the tiles look similar, but there is something in the true barrel tile that elevates the aesthetics of the house. And for the regular eye, for regular people that are not daily basis in contact with architecture, then you don't really realize it, right? But the people that really understand, sees how the house gets elevated when we use a true barrel tile.
I think well stated by everyone.
I was going to say, I agree. I mean, the barrel tile roof is actually more or less a decorative element. It's a contributing material to the structure. It's, it's all about the installation of the material, the methods, which all relates to the historical facts of the house. So I think it's probably one of the most important factors on a house, personally. I've spent countless hours in meetings with architects, even though I'm not an architect. But the discussion is roof tiles. They ship them in, they do mock-ups. It's extremely important, and I think it has all the characteristics of a house. So I'm going to agree with staff and my colleagues.
Great. Anyone else want to share their thoughts, or would someone like to make a motion?
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 20-60 for alterations in accordance with standards 9 and 10 as set forth in section 94-49 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted in the staff report, which constitutes competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the Historic Preservation element of the Comprehensive Plan of the City of West Palm Beach, Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. The conditions include the following. The roof shall be replaced with a true barrel tile in either concrete or clay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Ms. Gilly, I know you didn't get exactly what you requested today, but I hope that you understand that we're trying to protect the integrity of your home and the neighborhood, and we would like to welcome you. I live the next street over, so welcome to El Cid. And it's wonderful to see the investments that you're making into this home. So thank you very much. Our next case, sorry, I'm trying to get back on the agenda. Okay, our next case is case number 20-63, 715 New York Street.
You unmute yourselves to be sworn in, please. Mr. Lennon, you're still on mute.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, if you'd like to begin with your presentation, please.
With my presentation? Is that correct?
Traditionally, the applicant presents first, but staff will also have a presentation to follow.
Okay. Well, I was invited to join in on this meeting simply to give my opinion about the existing structure. And I believe the owner is requesting, or the design is incorporated such or designed such that we're asking to remove or demolish the existing building. So I guess my presence in this meeting is to give my opinion on why we believe we should tear it down versus trying to alter it or renovate it in a way to accommodate the new addition to that structure. The existing garage, I believe, is approximately 121 square feet. The street facing side is 9 feet, and then the length of it is 13'6", plus or minus. And basically, the existing building, in my opinion, has reached the end of its lifespan. I don't know the actual age of it, but I can tell you that the existing building is failing to some degree. The roof is sagging. The walls, because of the roof sagging, is bowing out. The roof structure is undersized to meet current codes, wind loads. Again, I don't know the age of the building. And then just the idea of trying to build a new structure and accommodate or rebuild the existing structure to attach itself to that, at best would be difficult. And I think I heard somebody talk earlier about cost versus value. Now, I haven't done any cost estimates of what it would take one way or another to do the work. But again, if you look at the cost versus value, I think trying to keep the existing building and attach a new one to it versus building a whole new structure, I think at the end, it just wouldn't be a good job. Again, that might be an understatement, but I think that trying to incorporate a new structure to the existing structure, again, it would be difficult. And in the long run, I don't think it would serve the owner properly, or for that matter, the community. I know I read something earlier, and if I can just look at that, and I thought that was very important. Now, I live in Wildermere, Mango Promenade, and my house is 105 years old. So I have an acute, if you will, appreciation of the historic preservation. I live in one. I've been interested in this part of the industry for many years. I learned from my grandfather. I have many books that he gave me that are dated in the early 1900s, 20s, and 30s. So again, I have a great appreciation for that. But it says, something that was on the last one says, new work will be compatible with the historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. So looking at that, looking at what is there, looking at what we would like to do, or what the owner would like to do, I fully believe that we can match the existing house, the existing neighborhood in such a way, if you were to look at least from the street, you couldn't tell if it was a year old or 50-year-old. 50 years old. So that's basically my opinion of it. Again, I think the structure has outlived its lifespan, and it would be better all around for the owner and really for the community to start from scratch in that particular area.
Okay. Is there any, I see that there's 3 people related to this application. Does anyone want to add anything?
Mr. Davis, are you giving a presentation?
Yes, I am.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
I apologize. I lost my video just as you brought us back in. And that kind of threw Mike into the driver's seat there for a minute, but he did a very good job.
Yes.
I
didn't know if you want me to just introduce myself and then you guys can, again, I invited you guys because you have the knowledge and I'm just the homeowner, but I just want to introduce myself as Glenda Meyer, and I'm a retired math teacher, and I've lived at the property at 715 New York Street for 4 years. After I spent about 6 months renovating the main house and went through this process minorly because it was interior things. And I've moved to Grandview Heights. I love the trees, the backyards, the homes, and I knew when I bought it that it was going to need some tender loving care, and that is a major understatement, but I still love living there and love everything about the neighborhood. Due to a family member losing their job and moving home, I have been thinking I need more space. I have an unusable, it says it's a garage, but basically looking at old permits in 2003, a sidewalk was brought down to it. It hasn't been a garage for I don't know how long. And it's not really a storage shed because it's so damaged and water inside of it and moldy and smelly and rotting that you can't store things in it. So what I was looking at with someone moving in with me is a family member that, I need storage. I'd love to have a safer building back there so that when hurricanes, which we're seeing more and more of, I don't always have to feel like I have to leave. And, I thought if I could squeeze it into that corner, because I love my little backyard. Is if you look at the plans, which I think will come up later, I have a beautiful little backyard. So I don't really want to take out the beautiful trees back there. I don't want to change. I would just like the opportunity to improve my property and use it wisely and not have it just rot away back there, because that's what previous owners have just let it rot away. And I wanted to do something different, and talking to the professionals, because Mike and Rick know what they're talking about and I don't. I say this is what I want, and they went back there, and we find out it's below grade. They'll talk about all these things so low that the water, I knew water was running right into it and rotting it more. I basically have a goal and ask them to help me to meet that goal. Talked to Frederic, I've talked to some other, trying to meet the rules that I need to meet to do what I need, and so that it doesn't rot away. Put something back there useful, beautiful for the neighborhood, beautiful for me, worth, being a retired teacher. I thought, if I can get safety and space, and there was another S and I can't remember what it was, but anyway, if I can get those things and use my money wisely and help the neighborhood and help myself, that's what I wanted to do. So I'm going to stop there and kick it off to the experts, Mike and Rick.
Thank you.
Okay. And if I may just add, everything has been covered so well. Again, we started with the goal to just increase the living space and keep some of the patio between what we're trying to preserve the building. And as we got further into it, structurally, it's so hard to, if you break it down into the floor, the walls, and the roof, well, the floor is too low. We'd have to shore the building up to pour a new floor. The footers are undersized. Raising the floor would lower the ceiling height, so we'd have to raise the roof as well. The walls, once we alter the walls, we'd bring those up to code. There's structural problems with the walls, not only the the height, the walls are bowed out due to the roof sagging. The roof was probably typical at that time, but extremely undersized to meet our current wind loads. As a result, the roof is sagged, bowing the walls out, and if we were to alter anything, we have to bring it up to code, and there's really anything we touch has to be replaced. If there was existing wood siding, like a Craftsman style, I would understand the value in preserving the siding and replacing that on a new structure. In this case, it's stucco. So we could certainly re-stucco a new building with the same texture to match, use the same exposed rafter tails, the larger fly rafter on the gable end. We can duplicate the features on a new structure that is structurally sound. The fact that it's continuing to deteriorate due to the water damage, there's an ongoing concern about the liability of having a structure in your backyard, concern for safety. And if we feel if we're not allowed to repair it, where's the limits of the liability? It seems like, does that shift to the agency that's preventing her to upgrade? It's a concern. We thought we had a good design that would incorporate some of the existing space, but remove the building so we can comply with the setbacks. We looked at least a dozen problems with the existing structure, both in zoning and the current structure. So I think we've got a good design that will allow using the same space for interacting the guest room with the patio back of the existing house, trying to preserve the existing trees. I would like to recommend approval so that we can get the improvements completed. I would, I guess, turn it back over to Aaron, or I'm not sure who the committee will take over.
Could you clarify your role in this project, please? Just, I know there's two gentlemen here, and I'm also seeing, I believe, a report from a structural engineer who's not participating. So if you could just clarify your roles in this project, I think that would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay.
The designer that's, I'm the architectural designer.
Okay.
Structural engineer that did a survey of the building, but is not attending.
And Mr. Lennon, your role in the project?
Yeah, I'm a state certified building contractor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So the person who completed the engineering report is not available.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any questions of the applicant?
Are you asking me, or are you asking?
I'm asking the board.
To ask me?
The board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm asking the board if they have any questions of you all.
I just have one question. You talked about the elevation of the building. How high would you be setting the new building if you were to get approval?
The existing floor holds water. So we were overpouring the existing, or sorry, we would base the new storage portion higher than the existing. That would allow positive drainage. And the living space, we're creating both living space and storage space. There's a 6-inch step in the slab. So the living space is higher, but even the storage portion would be higher than the existing structure. That would allow positive drainage away from the building so water doesn't puddle at the entrance and inside.
Got it.
And based on this report prepared by your engineer, your structural engineer, how did you come to the conclusion that the building needs to be demolished? I don't believe there's a recommendation by him that the building should be demolished.
Well,
Well,
I'll speak. Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Okay, I just want to mention, he's outlined about 6 items in his letter, but there was probably 8 or 10 areas of concern. I thought he did recommend that it was to be removed. Maybe as anything we alter, we would bring up to code, and
Oh, it says it should be removed, but is that to the bill? He's saying demolition.
I'm not following, I'm sorry.
Well, it says it's talking about code, structural and code issues, and should be removed. So he's saying the building should be demolished. I'm just clarifying the wording in the letter.
Okay,
I don't.
maybe he didn't clarify it, whether we were tried to renovate to create the guest house versus removal to build a new guest house. It was the obvious choice that this should be removed. He didn't state why it was to be removed. Is that the question?
I'm just unfamiliar. I think normally when we receive these letters, it says demolition, not removed.
Oh, that's just a matter of verbiage, I
Okay.
assume.
And these are not issues that are repairable, in your opinion?
No, as I started to break down the different, the floor, the walls, the roof, one leads to the other. If we could structurally improve it to the point where it met code, then converting it, a use change to living space, you have to remove the siding to give it a moisture barrier below the siding anyways. So there's really no way to modify that to cost effectively make living space.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any further questions of the applicant? The board?
Madam Chair, I just have a question for you. You've seen the letter from the structural engineer, and he does recommend, well, he said removal, but removal or demolition. Is that true?
Well, I was clarifying that means demolition. It says
Okay, but it says
should
that.
be removed.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I was just clarifying what that meant. I don't know if that means remove and replace the areas that have been outlined as having issues, or the entire structure itself.
Okay.
If I could just add, I think he left out part of our conversation. We discussed trying to modify the building to create living space, or removing it to replace the building with living space. That's not probably spelled out, but the obvious choice was to remove it, to replace it with new construction that meets code, and using modern products and technology that will renew the lifespan of this for another 100 years. That not only is it at the end of its lifespan, but to modify it, as the builder will mention the concern, how can he warranty his product when we're working with the conditions that are not up to code?
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I've got a question for the applicant, and the question would go to either the applicant or any of the team members. When looking at an application for demolition, the review of the staff's recommendation is very important, and they give the justification for the denial in the report. And my hope is that when looking at that the team would address the issues presented, or the justification statement presented, rather, not the issues, but the justification statement one by one, or to discount the basis for the recommendation for denial. For instance, in section 12 recommendation of the denial, the first basis is that the resource contributes significantly to the historic character of a designated property or district. And in looking at the photographs, I would have expected, or perhaps you all can address it, how that this particular property this particular structure contributes significantly to the historic character. When staff gives their justification, they'll expound on that. In the past, the preservationists will come up and address these issues, so there's a comfort level that indeed, perhaps this may not be such a significant contributing structure to that particular address. And I haven't heard anything so far which rebuts the staff's recommendation, other than, oh, structurally it's unsound, it has this structure has outlived its life, or the life of the structure is now at an end. Those types of arguments don't really place a great weight to me, because we have a lot of historic structures that are much older than this in towns like Charleston and Key West, and even here in West Palm. So what I'm asking the team, the applicant team, is what substantial evidence do you have to disprove the justification by staff that this property should be should not be raised?
Before they answer, can I just add something here? On the next page, Mr. Borngraber gives a reason for approval for new construction. I mean, he's like sitting on the fence here. The recommendation can go either one way or another, depending on what the board thinks about it.
And when we present before, my original thing wasn't just tear it down. My original goal was to have the improvement to the neighbor. I understand, you know, I love my home. I wouldn't want my home torn down. But what happened is, when I went to many, not just these guys, other professionals, like, what can I do? We just kept running into that everything that everything you touch, because I found that on the inside of my house, everything you touch has to start to be replaced. And when you're looking at a shed or a garage and touching every single thing in it, it's all going away. So, you know, to touch it and replace it, it's the same as, and again, I'm not a professional, but that's what I'm running into. And when you talk to the professionals, nothing was being saved. You know, I talked to Rick and Mike, we tried lots of different things and nothing was saving anything. It was everything like, well, no, that has to, you know, put the floor in and the roof has to be raised. And so nothing is up to code on it. It's being a shed. No one, you know, I bought it 5 years ago. Nobody maintained it, which is really sad. But now I've come into it and don't want something that's dangerous and unusable in my backyard. And you know, again, I've told Rick and Mike all along, what can I do? And that's where, you know, I said, I need your help.
Mm-hmm. I would like to add on that too, as the historic members pointed out. The historic staff has recommended approval of the design if we're allowed to remove the existing building that's in violation of setbacks and so on. And I mentioned earlier, if it was a craftsman style with lap siding that could be reused, certainly I understand the value in that. You can't reuse stucco because it's we can certainly match the texture and recreate that look. But there's really nothing to reuse on the building. And as it sits, it's continuing to deteriorate, and eventually will just, it will, it will fall down with hopefully no further problems. But, you know, there's always concern when there's an unsafe building. And I understand historic preservation staff recommends it's old, it's original, it should be kept, but it can't be used in this condition. And we can recreate the same look in a usable building that adds to the same charm, the same effect, has the same look. The carriage door is visible from the street. Will duplicate the features of this structure. I just think it would be the opportunity for the homeowner to invest, and I think it would be a good design. I'm hoping for the approval.
Yeah. If I may have a moment to chime in as well, and again, this is just my opinion on this house. I'm looking at the proposed plan that shows a new structure after taking the old one down, and what I'm seeing is the edge of this building is 9 feet wide. It is approximately 80 feet from the edge of the road, and it is behind a 6-foot privacy fence. And I say that in response to a contributing factor for the historic aspects of this. So it's a long way from the road, it's behind a 6-foot fence. Now, and I don't want to call this an argument, but I have another project that's under construction now at 1207 Florida Avenue. This project involves an attached master bedroom and bathroom to the back of the house with a 2-car garage and a guest suite detached in the backyard. Now, the existing house is a 2-story with a bevel lap siding, wood, with an approximate 8-inch of exposure. Now, the new additions happen to be stucco. So we have an attached addition with stucco that's abutting an existing property of bevel siding, and then the detached garage is stucco. So on that particular project, we have 2 dissimilar materials going up against each other, and then also adjacent in the yard. So I see 2 different types of structure. One is a historic building, but yet the new buildings appear to be modern, and the garage is visible from the street with no privacy fence obstructing the view. So that is one, I guess, example of something that's might be called non-conforming, which was approved. And then we have this project that would be conforming because we have similar materials and also can be applied in a fashion that simulates the existing. So that was my 2 cents on that part.
Thank you. Mr. Stambaugh, was your question addressed?
I don't think so, but
Would you like to restate your question?
whether or not there's any expert opinion to rebut the justification statement by staff that the property is contributes significantly to or that this structure contributes significantly to the historic character of the district or that subject property. I'm having trouble. I understand the general arguments that the applicant's making, but I'm really having trouble right now with proof that indeed this property is non-contributing. And I think that's the first hurdle. Meaning the structure is not contributing. If it's contributing, then I think the next step is it capable of being repaired and reused in a practical and feasible manner, so that actually the bones of the accessory structure could be used and worked with, and I would put it upon staff to work with the applicant, come back in a month to see whether or not they'd be able to work to some degree with the already existing structure. But that's my line of thinking right now. But right now, I haven't heard anything to rebut staff's opinion and move past the expert opinion that they're providing, that it contributes significantly to the historic character of the property. Does everyone understand me, or am I not being clear?
Excuse me.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to clarify, it's listed as contributing in the designation report. So it is contributing. It is accessory structure that is located in the northeast corner. So I just want to clarify that.
Right, right. That's what I understand, it that it's contributing. And if so, then it would lead to a denial. So if there was a mistake that it was actually not contributing, then I could take it to the next step. So I hope I'm not making this more confusing than it is, but I just haven't heard anything to rebut the justification for the denial. That's all.
Well, can I ask you a question? When you say, I think you referred to the property, so I'm assuming you're referring to the detached structure in the back, the 125.5 square foot structure?
Correct.
Or are you talking about the house itself, the main house?
The house itself.
Okay, so you believe that this is a contributing structure, or contributing, whatever you said?
That's how I'm reading the report in front of me. Perhaps I'm confused. I'd leave staff to clarify that, but they're making a recommendation for denial because the accessory structure is contributing.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying. So I just want to clarify.
Just want to clarify real quick. So there's no hierarchy in our contributing structures. So both the main house and the rear accessory structure is contributing, but I wouldn't say the accessory structure contributes significantly to Grandview Heights. To the property and to the district, it does, but I wouldn't say significantly like the main house does.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps we should move on to staff report, and then we can circle back to the applicant if we have more questions.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Borngraber?
All right, give me one moment to pull up. Aaron Borngraber, Historic Preservation Planner. This is for the demolition of a accessory structure and new construction of an accessory structure at 715 New York Street. Here we have the project location highlighted in red. This is the primary structure right here, as well as the contributing structure, which is being proposed to be demolished, and then a new one built roughly in the same place and meeting current code. So the current accessory structure is actually about 233 square feet. It was built circa 1921. And then the new construction, which would have a vernacular style of architecture, is being proposed to be approximately 377 square feet. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a property within Grandview Heights Historic District. These are photos that were supplied by the applicant. The captions of the photos are also by the applicant. These were the file names. So on the left, we have the existing doors rotting from standing water. On the top right, we have there's a sag in the roof. On the bottom right, we have the existing damaged single top plate. On the left, there is apparently an overhang sag, there's a warp fascia, and there's a setback violation. I just want to clarify, this would just be considered legal non-conforming. So what is allowed to exist can remain existing as long as it's legally permitted. So there wouldn't be a violation. It's allowed to continue to exist. And on the right, we have existing non-code compliant roof framing. This is the engineer report, and it is in your packet towards the end. And the engineer is just stating that, the detached garage violates many structural and code issues, and for all practical purposes, it should be removed. They're also stating that the structure is not capable of handling a sea exposure wind event. And per the building code, it does not comply. This is a historic structure which would have exemption, as well as existing buildings are allowed to continue to exist as is. They don't have exemptions like historic properties there. This is also in the packet. This is just a few neighbors who did support the project. And review criteria for demolition. So the applicant submitted a structural engineering report which summarizes the structural deficiencies of the structure, but does not state that these deficiencies cannot be resolved. The letter states that the current building does not meet code for withstanding the forces during a sea exposure wind event, but a historic building is exempt from this requirement. So SAP has determined that the applicant has not provided sufficient information that justifies demolition of a contributing accessory structure. And therefore it doesn't comply with the historic preservation ordinance as well as the Secretary Interior Standards number 9 and 10, is recommending denial of the denial of the application. However, if the board does feel that the demolition is appropriate, these are the plans for new construction. So here we have the site plan on the right. It would meet all setback requirements. They're even expanding their driveway to ensure they meet with the code for off-site parking. There's the guest room with a bathroom as well as a storage space. These are the elevations. So it has a cross gable roof with the roof rafters, same as existing. It has a couple 4x1 windows as well as a paired French door and a carriage style garage door. And for new construction, it does comply with the historic preservation ordinance as well as the Secretary Interior Standards number 9 and 10. It fits very well within its place for new construction. Therefore, staff would recommend approval for new construction if the board approves demolition. And with these two conditions, just to ensure full compliance, all windows and doors shall have a white exterior frame, clear glass or clear glass with low E coating and exterior dimensional buttons. And lastly, a minimum of 50% of the wood for the structure shall be salvaged and reused on the property. Thank you.
Questions of staff? Mr. Borngraber, can you please clarify? I don't know why I'm getting so much feedback, but the last demolition of an accessory structure that we approved, that was for a building that caught fire, correct?
I believe so.
Are there any others in recent memory? That's the only one that I can remember that we've approved demolition of an accessory structure.
There was a non-contributing in Northwood Harbor that was recently approved, but that was non-contributing. The property that you're mentioning with the fire was also contributing.
And are these deficiencies outlined in the structural engineering report issues that are commensurate with the age of the building, in your opinion?
Yes. General maintenance probably would have addressed these throughout time, even before the current property owner. But sometimes the quality of materials is not also as high as the primary structure, so that is likely a factor as well.
How would someone go about repairing this building and incorporating it? I know you're not a builder, but how would someone go about repairing this building and incorporate an addition?
As I'm not a builder, it would probably require being very delicate with the existing structure, and as well as probably making it more of two structures that just so happen to share a wall than having it truly combined as one structure. But once again, I'm not a contractor, I'm not a structural engineer, so this is just how I observe the world.
But it's below elevation.
In regarding the below elevation bit, it could be raised to ensure that it is above elevation.
Was an
It's
elevation
so unstable to be lifted to be lifted, something that's so unstable and damaged, that would be risky too.
Was an elevation certificate submitted with this application?
No, there was not.
Okay.
There is elevations noted on the survey, not in the form of a certificate, but noted on the boundary survey. The grade is above floor level on the west side, which is creating more rot over time. And we know that code requires the frame walls to be 6 inches above grade. That is another area that will continue to deteriorate.
What is the elevation? I'm trying to pull it up on my computer. What is the elevation?
The highest portion on the back, it does slope, so it has a pitched slab with multiple cracks and irregularities, but the highest portion is elevation 24.5 in the back. And we have grade around the patio that's 24, 24.4, 24.8, 24.9 in one area.
How is that below grade?
The entrance, the opening of the garage is down at 24.1, and the land to the west of it is at least 6 inches above the floor level.
Mr. Borngraber, the or Ms. Mittner, the general's house that we just approved, that building for elevating, that's at a much lower elevation. Is that correct?
Yes, I wasn't aware that this was at 24 feet. That is certainly high. I mean, usually you're looking at 9 or 10 feet.
Yeah, that's high.
And so I wasn't aware that it was 24.
According to the survey here, that's what they've noted.
The finished floor at 27 NAVD, that's high.
Yeah.
So it could be more of an issue about site drainage, or, you know, raising the finished floor level, or, I mean, you could shorten the height of the opening to address that. Is that correct, Ms. Mittner?
Shorten the height of the opening, you mean?
The garage doors, like if there's an issue with water entry, couldn't you?
Yes, you could raise the floor. I mean, I think there's going to be a point where it obviously doesn't become feasible on the interior, you know, in terms of ceiling height. But yes, you could raise the floor. I think it's what the applicants have stated is you start doing that, then how do you, it just opens a can of worms sometimes when you're trying to, but I didn't realize it was as high as it was.
Yeah, the survey says that the existing one-story residence is at 27 feet. The accessory structure is at 24.56. What I can see in the survey is on the top left corner of the property. That is the highest point at 24.9. So that corner is above the finished floor of the accessory structure, but all the rest of the area around the accessory structure is about 24 feet, which is 6 inches below the finished floor in the structure.
And from my research, I found that there was a permit done in 2003. Again, this is prior to me, where the driveway and the sidewalk that were put in, and it was permitted and approved. And that sidewalk runs water right down into the shed, and has been doing it for years before, you know, again, when I found out that it was below and I'm having water in there, you know, looking at why is this happening? Something that was permitted and approved has been causing more damage since 2003 at least.
Yes, her driveway is higher near the front
Right.
of the house, pitching back towards this accessory structure is what's
Right.
happening.
I'm not sure of the accuracy of these elevations, but
Me neither.
from the photographs,
Yeah.
you can clearly see the left side of the building is, the patio is above the carriage doors at the front of the building.
Yeah, you have your northwest pitching back toward the building and your southeast pitching back toward your building. Not a good situation.
The photo that's labeled existing sag and roof is a good example of the grade, the elevation is higher than the bottom of the doors.
Right.
You can see it from the other existing door, the photo that says existing doors rotten from standing water. You can see the left side is, the grade is elevated. That's not labeled on the survey though, but they didn't pick the areas that should have been highlighted, or there's an error. You can see it clearly in the photograph though.
Ms. Minner, I'm sorry, Mr. Bordengraber, I have another question for Ms. Minner. Do you agree that with Mr. Bordengraber's assessment that these issues are the result of deferred maintenance?
I think they are a combination of deferred maintenance and obviously, and I haven't studied this case as much as he has, is really improper site treatments. Obviously, as I'm looking at the images and kind of hearing the testimony that, you know, this raised patio hasn't helped the structure. I think it was just poor decision-making in terms of the future impact on the structure of what happened on site.
And I'm just trying to wrap my head around approving a demolition for, I mean, the ones that I can recall approving were in very poor condition. And I feel that this evidence is not, so how do you, but I understand the argument that if they want to achieve the program that they've been given, that they are going to have some challenges. Do you have any experience in projects similar to this where someone's looking to expand the footprint of an existing accessory structure? I feel like we deal with that often. How is it dealt with?
You know, I believe they could do almost like a second addition that kind of functions as its own, and then the challenge is the connector piece.
I'm
Obviously
gonna lose
the doors
trees and patio though. If I'm gonna lose trees and patio if I'm pulling everything to the side. I've been trying to keep the beauty of the of the area and things like that. I mean, we've looked at all of this.
Thank you, ma'am. If you could please wait. Right now we're asking questions of staff. Thank you. Ms.
So I do believe that's the solution, is moving towards the west in the back of the house, and yeah, addressing that paver patio. I understand she doesn't want to lose that, but it sounds like it's causing more water issues down the road either way. And then I definitely think the replacement of the garage doors is warranted. Those are demonstrating rot. I think on the interior, see some wood pieces that are in good condition, hence the staff condition to salvage at least 50% of the lumber from the inside to reuse it in a new construction, whether it's for framing pieces or whatever components, to salvage the outriggers and the roofing material on the interior. So that would be my only suggestion, is to construct that they would need to address the site and construct an addition.
So I know that, if we consider this alternate recommendation, what are the ramifications of approving a demolition like that? I know that we consider everything on a case-by-case basis, but my concern is, what door does that open if we're now allowing accessory structures to be demolished? In essence, for obviously cost savings and convenience, which obviously those things are important, but I feel like this directly conflicts with the principles that are supposed to be guiding this board.
True. I would recommend to the board that you list specific, if you choose to approve the demolition, that you list specific findings of what is unique in this particular situation, so that it's not as precedent setting or, applicable across the board. To me, I think salvaging some of the lumber, I think is important, but there is very little architectural ornamentation on the structure. I think that's why you see that staff's recommendation for new construction is there. We were concerned in principle to recommend approval of the demolition, hence you see Aaron's denial. But really, as far as an architectural redeeming feature, there is no, filigree, no wood windows, no ornamentation that is so unique or makes this so highly significant that it would be a detrimental loss. However, it is listed as contributing, so we're trying to balance all that and wanted to retain any original materials that are salvageable. So my recommendation to the board is if you are supportive of the demolition, that you list specific findings of why this is unique. And
okay, thank you. Any further questions of staff?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Mittner, has there been any efforts at all with the applicant to try to work with staff or come up with a way where they could do an adaptive reuse of the existing structure, knowing that there could be a secondary structure or something? Because one of the advantages of using, and I know you know this, but you doing an adaptive reuse is that the variance for, you don't need a variance or anything of the sort with that setback. And there's an advantage for having that structure so close to the property line. And I'm just looking at the structure. If it wasn't for the fact that it was historic, if it was built in the 1970s, we wouldn't be having an issue here. But as non-contributing to the primary structure, the residence. But has there been any effort at all to try to take a hard look at it rather than take the materials and use 50% of the materials to a new structure?
Well, the property owner, Ms. Meyer, has reached out to me several times, and I think she's done her own exploratory work, but staff's position has been, philosophically, we do not support demolition of contributing structures, and that they would need to present the case to you this evening or whatever, schedule was appropriate. So, we are willing to work on converting the space and letting her use it and build additions. But I think you heard her testify that she doesn't want to remove trees or alter her backyard. And so that's why she is presenting her case to you. But at a staff level, our position has been repair instead of replacement.
Okay.
And Ms. Mittner, from the beginning, I originally was just trying to do a remodel, but by talking to professionals, again, everything you're touching is rotted. I think it may be a challenge to find 50% of the wood in there that can be reused, because the stucco is going to all come off. But again, we will do, if it were approved, we will do anything that's reusable, we'll use. We're not against any of that. I just have a goal that I'd like to meet, and have been, for almost a year trying to figure out how can I meet this goal.
And she has, I can confirm that, she has reached out to staff multiple times saying that every person she speaks to is indicating it's not repairable. But then we told her to submit an application with that, and that is the product in your packet.
Ms. Mittner, is there a possibility, and I don't know if it's your place to provide an approved list of historic preservation consultants that could jump on their team? No, right?
No, can't do that.
She's going to have to ferret that out herself.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Ms. Mittner, if they were to save that structure, wouldn't it essentially have to be taken apart anyway? In other words, for lack of a better term, a clean demolition, a very carefully plotted removal of all the pieces, laying it out and seeing what could be put back and what a new fabric would have to be put in?
In terms of the salvage, if they are salvaging materials. to
No,
your
I'm not
hand?
talking about salvaging. We're talking
Okay.
about if we were to say that this new structure, that the existing structure had to be saved, okay?
Mhm.
From what the applicant's representatives have described, it would seem that the whole building would have to be taken apart anyway. I don't know, maybe I'm putting words in their mouth, but
Yeah, we're not seeing that. The only rot that we're really seeing are on the doors.
I
And then
see.
again, that the site work is, or the way the grading is
Right.
certainly not helping the situation. And we
Right.
would advise that that would be addressed with how the pavers do step up.
okay. And just as a side issue, do you happen to know if the hardware on the doors is original? So the locks, the hinges, all that stuff that could be saved?
I can't confirm that. They seem very small and undersized for an original
see.
product.
Okay.
Any further questions of staff? Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this item?
Madam Chair, I see no public comment.
Okay, thank you. We'll go into executive session.
Is there a chance to speak one more time?
No, sir, we're in executive session now. Thank you.
I don't know. I would ask our two architects to kind of put their 2 cents in terms of how they think that the existing structure could be retained and repaired.
I think that's good advice.
So in looking at this structure and talking about elevating it, it is a substantial amount of work to elevate a structure considering how small it is. With the notes that Ms. Mittner made about overall it kind of lacking character, defining features. With that said though, I do think it's a dangerous precedent to set to recommend demolition of the structure. Just in the past sitting on this board, it's not something we do lightly. I don't know that the evidence presented is really sufficient in my mind to recommend demolition of the structure, to approve demolition of the structure. There are other alternatives. I know in the past we've looked at, and we've done this on some of our projects, is to take away some of the wood along the bottom and do a concrete curb to stop the drainage issues. So I mean, there are alternative methods to dealing with the drainage on the site. And it's also a problem of its own making if you're building, I know the current owner didn't do it, but building up hardscaping right next to a building with negative drainage.
Thank you. Mr. Jaroslawski, do you want to weigh in?
No, I agree with Christine, because the problem here is that what I am thinking is that, you know, the evidence presented really doesn't support the demolition, because it's all about code compliance, which a structure like this doesn't have to comply with code.
Right.
And what I am seeing here, honestly, is that we have a historic structure that was always a storage, right, or used as a storage, and wants to be converted to a living space. And it's extremely difficult to do that, right? Like Christine was saying, you know, raising it is possible, right? We approve, you know, moving whole houses from one. Actually, there is one coming up, right? But they are whole houses that we move from one side to another side. So it's possible to raise it, you know, but we don't have a definitive structural report that says that this is not a safe structure to maintain, right? And the conclusion that needs to be demolished because it's not safe. We don't have that evidence, right? I am not saying it. So I think that it's difficult to convert. I mean, I understand what the owner is trying to do. He's trying to, have a living space instead of this structure, but I am not seeing it.
Well, I think that speaks to the fact that there are inherent limitations to owning a historic property, and you understand the condition and the footprint and the constraints of these buildings when you purchase them. And those characteristics are what make them unique and desirable, but they also sometimes can prevent some of the outcomes that property owners would like, or they, cause need for creative solutions. And so I think that what this property owner is asking can be achieved by some of the, one of the ways that have been listed either by Ms. Kellogg or Mr. Jaroslawski and Ms. Mittner, saying of basically adding an addition that has a shared wall rather than a unified structure, that her goals can be achieved without demolition. And so perhaps, I don't know if they want to continue it or if they just want to go to a vote. And I personally cannot support approval of this application because the evidence is not sufficient. And I'm very concerned what type of precedent this sets. Even if we do approve it and add conditions, I'm very concerned about the message that sends to the community when it comes to preserving our structures, even if they are accessory structures that don't have an incredible amount of architectural detailing.
And if I may add, Madam Chair, is that last month we rejected a similar case for another structure bigger than this one, that it looked from the picture that we received that was in worse condition than this one, but we didn't have clear evidence that needed to be demolished because it was not safe for people, right? So we rejected it.
If I may, Madam Chair, my thoughts are this, that the applicant has spent some time on this and has gone so far to have an alternative structure proposed, and the staff has approved with conditions. What's standing in the way is no basis for justifying, or not just, there's no basis to justify the demolition of a contributing structure to this district, albeit accessory structure. If there is a path where the applicant came back and had an independent expert opinion disproving the staff's basis, then there would be something to provide us with substantial competent evidence to refute staff's recommendation. What's presented is not there, and if the applicant is not able to obtain that type of opinion, my feeling is that the applicant could work with staff on trying to do an adaptive reuse to this structure. I understand the economics of this, though. 90% of the construction experts or professionals say, raise the building, we build new. It's so much more cost effective to try to work with this existing structure can be very expensive. And so there's a struggle here. I mean, when on its face, not applying the facts to the law, we'll look at it and say, oh yeah, higher, better use. Let's go ahead and put in, tear down the shed and let's put in a new structure. And it's will be much more favorable, but that's not what we can do here. And so my thinking is to ask that the applicant go back and work with staff to see if they can come up with a solution to save the structure, not just 50% of the wood.
I think that's a good suggestion. Ms. Meyer, I'd like to invite you to comment on that suggestion.
Frederick, wouldn't you think I've already been doing that?
I mean, defer the Frederick.
Did you hear me? Oh, it's not Frederick. I'm sorry.
Yep, sorry, I stepped away. We're trying
Okay.
to keep our distance.
I guess what I was trying to say is that I thought I've already been doing that. Because again, originally, I'm not saying from the beginning that I wanted to not have a building. It's been painted. I don't want it to look crummy. So I know when I look at the pictures, it doesn't look as bad as if you looked on the inside where the whole bottom board is missing. The support, it's being held up by the stucco. And the stuff in there that it can only store is junk, things that cannot be ruined because it's water flows into it. I don't know. I've worked with you, Frederick. I guess you've seen, I've never said like, oh, I just want to tear it down and build something. That's right from the beginning. I'm not.
From the beginning, I know
said,
you
what
wanted.
What can I do? What
right.
can I do?
And so I think the crossroads we're at is the addition component. Or a secondary structure. And then that obviously is balancing what you wanted with trees. And I don't think we have the information on what trees you're trying to save. So
Gumbo limbo and a yingling or back there. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, there's beautiful trees in the backyard. There's the paver part some of that was gonna come off anyway. But
so I think you can perhaps continue to utilize this more as a storage space and then since you weren't proposing a very large structure anyway, almost have it right adjacent to it. So
the tree will have to come out. The tree will have to come out.
I believe I understand what the board's looking for. I'm happy to come do a site visit and we can perhaps discuss it more. If the board is looking to continue it, I don't think we could bring you back on November because it's such a short turnaround. We can try, but it might be more realistic for a December hearing.
Would you like to pursue that route and continue the case, or would you like us to put it to a vote, Ms. Meyer?
I guess so. What you're proposing, I guess Frederick, you've been very, when I've called, you've been very helpful. I guess I don't know why that wasn't offered before I came to you, because that's what I've been asking. What will get approved?
Well, I can never guarantee what the board's going to say. And I mean, I did up front say we will not support demolition. I mean, that is something we have told you from day one. We don't support demolition of accessory structures.
And I understood that. And then I had professionals say that they're going to touch everything in there. It's all going to have, everything you touch isn't up to code. Because it's just a little box. Once you touch the box, I don't know if I build, my professionals are there.
Even trying to
sir, thank you. You've had an opportunity to make your argument, and right now we're just speaking with Ms. Meyer about what direction she would like to go in, to continue or to have us put it to a vote.
Okay.
I guess I don't know what the consequences of each of those are. What is that? What is
Ms. Mittner?
I think it can't hurt to, I know you've already been working at this for about a year, but I think let's do a site visit. I don't mean to speak for the board or you, but I think that's probably the safest route if we do a site visit in the next couple days and see what else we can develop and bring it back to the board, whether it's more information of why the structure can't be saved or alternative solutions of additions or additional new construction on site to feed the living space that you're seeking.
If I may,
I guess I just wanted to ask my professionals, because again, I don't know, my professionals, what do you, can I ask them, or do I call them privately to say what they
I think,
suggest?
yeah, I think that happens offline after the board
Okay.
makes a decision.
If I can, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider application case number 20-63 to come back no sooner than 60 days or not next month's meeting, but the file, right. So to reconsider the application at that time, which would afford the applicant additional time to work with staff, given the board's comments, now that the applicant has heard from the board, who's the decision-making body on this. So I make that motion to have this reconsidered no sooner than 60 days from the date of this application.
And I think it's actually a motion to continue it till that date as opposed to reconsidering.
Continue.
And you said no sooner than, but obviously if we can manage to get her in front of you quicker, we'd like to assist her with that. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Just motion to continue.
To the next available agenda would be great. Yeah.
For the next available agenda on case number 20-63.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Meyer. We appreciate your willingness to work with Ms. Mittner to explore this further with the feedback of the board. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you. Our final case of the evening is case number 20-64, 464 Fern Street.
Kent, we need you on video, so Hope can swear you in.
And unmute your screen.
Kent, you need to unmute. And David, we can't hear you either.
I'm new at this, first time. Hi. I'm not going to speak, but if you need me to swear in, I will.
David, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Dave.
Solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful.
I do.
Okay, if you'd like to make your presentation, please.
We can't hear you, David.
Is that better?
Yes.
Hi, David.
Hi. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Now we'll come back to Zoom if we can. Hi. I'll be brief. We're here today to talk with you about the relocation of an existing residence located at 464 Fern Street. And we're actually proposing to move it to 801 North Tamarind. This is one of the houses that was moved in 1993 by the city of West Palm Beach from the Hillcrest neighborhood to its present location. And the intention at that point was it would become a cultural center. And I don't think that ever worked out, but the city used the property for a number of years. And then subsequently, my clients bought the property. I'd like to share a couple of things on the screen if I could. This is an aerial of the current site. Dixie Highway is along, the street is here. Quadrille is located here. The property in question is 464 Fern, and the structure is located right here. This was the Riddle House named for actually one of the, I believe, the first city managers of the city of West Palm Beach, and was one of the, we're proposing to move it to North Tamarind. And the screen I want to share this time. Okay, we'll start here. This is showing what we're proposing will be done. You can see holds the Riddle House here in the adjacent residential structure. When it's planned to be moved, it will need to move to the west to be able to go up Quadrille. I believe that y'all probably saw the relocation of the other house several weeks ago, and it will be taking a similar path as it goes up the street. We did, and this is informational for you, but we did submit a site plan approval set of documents to the city's planning department, because the property in question actually is within their jurisdiction, not in the historic district. The house itself, when it is relocated onto the site, will actually be fronting onto Tamarind Avenue, as well as the side of the house will be at 7th. The current back of the house will be at the rear where we placed parking. There is some future expansion area on the site, and access into the site is actually going to come from the alley. Closely with staff on this at planning and zoning relative to this, and naturally have tried to keep Frederic in the loop in terms of what we're doing. The existing lot is vacant presently. It was purchased some time ago by the CRA, and this really is a very important redevelopment corner and area for the city. So I'm actually pleased that we start something going here, which is great. The house itself is intended to be just restored. It will need a new roof. It will need new windows. There are some minor repairs that might be exacerbated during the move, but the basic layout is actually very conducive to my client's future use. The end user is going to be a construction company, and they will ultimately buy the property from the CRA. So we've got several parties involved in this, and the hope is that it all comes about the way we'd like to. Happy to answer any questions you might have about it, and have read the staff report. The one item that I requested that be clarified is that the house receive a designation at its new location. It's my understanding from reviewing this with Frederic that actually will be the CRA who is going to be asking for the designation. I'm not certain when the end user would get in there. I can't answer for you how quickly we can move it, but we would like to do it reasonably quickly. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah,
Question for the applicant? Sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Miller, so this application is just for the relocation of the house, right? It's not so all the renovation or window changes or roof changes that may happen in the future are not included in this application.
That is correct. I wanted to be able to show you that informationally to let you know what was intended. But no, at this point in time, all we are asking about is the relocation of the structure.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. Ms. Mittner?
Thank you. I'll be brief since I think a lot of the presentation was already covered. All right. Can you see it now? Did I do it right this time? 464 Fern Street, there are two structures currently on site. This is the property or the building just on the northeast corner of Fern and Quadrille, the Riddle House, as was already mentioned, as you can see it from this intersection. It was served as the city's health center for many years after being the Horticultural Society. So the relocation is proposed from 464 Fern Street to 801 North Tamarind Avenue. So again, the existing location, its existing elevations and floor plan, and its proposed location. So the Northwest Historic District is immediately across the street on the east side of North Tamarind Avenue. However, this parcel is currently vacant, is owned by the CRA, and there is, as Mr. Miller indicated, kind of multiple partners working on achieving this goal. This was a very flourishing neighborhood and an active business quarter on North Tamarind Avenue. So relocating the structure to the site, fronting the street, would have been a very typical or appropriate type of structure on this prominent street. Even though it did start out as a residential building in the Hillcrest neighborhood, this would be appropriate for commercial use along Tamarind Avenue. We also are in favor of the relocation since it's not in its current location anymore. So what we like is that it does address the corner. We hope that the future improvements will also fall under our historic preservation ordinance by being individually designated. So we do have say on those modifications. But what has been preliminarily presented is in keeping with the existing Mediterranean revival. But again, the details as they come forward with the new construction company moving in here as their office space would be further evaluated. So we do believe it meets the zoning and land development regulation section 9449, the terms of relocation. None of these exist to deny a relocation. And again, we do believe it's an appropriate site and are recommending approval, just that we do redesignate it and therefore review any additional modifications. I've also spoken to Mr. Miller as well as Gina Baker in the CRA that once the move happens, that we include some fanfare, have a banner on that building, and just kind of celebrate the relocation of the building. That concludes my presentation.
Great. And have you reviewed the conditions with the applicant?
Yes, and we agree that the redesignation will be something that city staff and CRA undertakes.
Okay.
Ms. Mittner, if I may, is this the Riddle House? The way I remember it was that this is not the original location of the Riddle House, that it was actually moved in the 90s. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And that's why we are fine with it relocating again. It was a residential use initially. It was in the Hillcrest neighborhood. It's been converted to commercial use, and therefore we believe it's fine to be relocated again.
And if I recall that move, the way that I remember it is that there was some conversation. I don't know if it was ever concluded, but there was some conversation that Meisner was actually the architect of this house. Do you know if that's actually true?
I am not aware of that. I did review the designation report, but I did not see that. I did include a historic photograph in your packet of what it looked like before the relocation, but the Meisner connection did not come up.
Okay.
But speaking of the building's history, you may recall that the applicant was previously in front of you for this site. And so it's exciting that, you know, the next site has been secured for this particular structure.
Right. So that I was just curious about that. There may be some probably post articles on that.
I can clarify a couple of things for you on that. We found a great article that was actually in the, I believe it was in the Sun Sentinel, and it was published in 1993, and it was talking about the move. Apparently, Carl Riddle, who had built the house in 25, 2 years after he was recalled as the city's first manager, so I'm sure there's another story there, Apparently he and another gentleman named Lester Geisler both worked in Addison Meisner's office. I don't know in what capacity they worked, but apparently Donald Curl, who we all know wrote a lot about the history of this area, indicated that the house was designed by Mr. Geisler, not Meisner. But it has a significant number of touches that practice demonstrated. So it's kind of close enough for kissing cousins, I guess.
Thank you. So Ms. Meitner, now that we got that cleared up, is it my understanding that the CRA, this is a public-private partnership, so the end use is actually going to be a private use. There's no
That's correct.
Public use to this building.
Not directly, but obviously its visual provenance there, I think will benefit the community.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
And if I missed it, was there any discussion of the other building on the property? What's happening to that building?
I'm not aware of the plans for the other building at this time.
That's not a part of this application for you today. Don't know about that one yet, Amanda. We'll certainly speak with you.
Well, I hope you find a new home for it, because I know that you were previously before us requesting demolition. So I hope that you can find somewhere to relocate it. I think this will be a great addition to the Northwest Historic District. And there's actually precedent, aren't there 2 other buildings that were relocated from Hillcrest to that neighborhood as well?
I think there were a few scattered. I'd have to find out exactly which ones, but obviously we did just relocate the Gardenia one there.
Great. Well, thank you. Do we have any further questions of the applicant or of staff? Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this item?
Madam Chair, I don't see any public comment.
Okay, we'll go into executive session. Unless there's further discussion, would someone like to make a motion?
I move that the.
I'm sorry. I just want to interject. I do want to emphasize the importance of designating it historic after the minute. That's all.
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 20-64 for relocation in accordance with standards 9 and 10 as set forth in section 94-49 of the city zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitutes competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguards that I believe are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the Historic Preservation element of the Comprehensive Plan of the City of West Palm Beach, the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically standards 9 and 10, and additional criteria set forth in section 94-49 of the city zoning and land development regulations. Specifically, the conditions include the following. 1, the building will be redesignated at the new location. 2, proposed modifications such as entry step will be resubmitted and reviewed at staff level to ensure full compliance with the Secretary of the Interior standards and the city's design guidelines.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
And do we have, I think there being no further, excuse me. I think there being no further business, can we please have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Do a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all.
Thank you.